name is Mike Pence. I'm the House Republican Conference Chairman, but was tapped earlier this year by Republican leader John Boehner to serve as the chairman of the American Energy Solutions Group. We just completed our fifth field hearing for the American Energy Solutions Group, and then today, as before, we heard overwhelming evidence about the profound harmful economic impact of the Democrats' cap-and-trade legislation on not only the economy of this nation, but most especially the economy of the Midwest. I have said and heard nothing that changes my view that the Democrat climate change bill is nothing more than an economic declaration of war on the Midwest by liberals in Washington, D.C., and it must be opposed. House Republicans are determined to carry the truth about this national energy tax to the American people. And we were grateful today to have the opportunity to come to Columbus, Ohio to do it. With that, I'm going to recognize the Republican leader, John Boehner, for some remarks, and then we'll take questions.
In America today, we've got the highest unemployment that we've had in some 27 years. In Ohio particularly, we've got over 12% unemployment. And at a time when unemployment is at this level, I'll use the president's words. We've got to create jobs in America. And when you look at the stimulus bill that didn't work earlier this year, $800 billion, nothing has come as a result of it. And then you look at the other policies coming out of my liberal Democrat friends in Washington, will not only help create jobs, they will kill jobs in America. Whether it's their budget, their trillion-dollar deficits for as far as the eye can see, their health care proposal, but this cap-and-trade proposal, or cap-and-tax proposal, as I'd like to call it, will ship millions of American jobs overseas every year for the next 10 years. This is the kind of proposal that you cannot recover from. And I didn't go to Washington to raise taxes on my constituents, to raise prices on my constituents, or to kill their jobs. And House Republicans believe that we have a better solution. The American Energy Act will, in fact, create more energy domestically here in the United States. It will reduce our dependency on foreign sources of oil. And yes, because we have a trust fund to take those royalties from new oil and gas production and roll them back into green energy, we'll have more solar energy, we'll have more wind energy, and we'll have more geothermal energy. And hopefully, as a result of the size of this trust fund, we'll be able to plow more money into renewables that we don't even know about as yet. I think this is a strategy that Americans favor. We're going to continue to talk about it. With that, we'll answer a couple of questions. Yes?
What about promoting local agriculture? Policies that favor small-scale farming as opposed to the big agribusinesses as a way to address some of the agricultural issues that we've been talking about the last hour and a half.
So when it comes to ag issues, I was a long-time member of the House Ag Committee. So is Gene. We'll be happy to answer that question later. But this is about energy, and we like to keep it focused on energy. Yes, ma'am.
You promote and focus on nuclear in your bill, which is something you said Waxman-Markey does not. It's been 40 years, obviously, I think, since a nuclear power plant has been built. The one in Piketon was introduced. I believe that's still maybe 10 years away. How do you propose, do you have a timeline, and also how do you propose to finance that proposal? Well,
I think the first thing we have to do with regard to nuclear energy is to streamline the permitting process. Today it may take over 10 years to permit a new nuclear facility. And I think that we can streamline the permitting process without putting any safety issues in play. And I think it's an important part of this, otherwise they'll never get built.
There's some skepticism voiced on
Let me speak to that if I may. It would be important to note that the goal in our legislation, the American Energy Act that the leader introduced, calls for 100 new nuclear power plants in the next 20 years. We achieved that through a series of incentives and regulatory reforms that the leader just described. And it's also important to note that Republicans in the House and the Senate have agreed in a bicameral way on the goal of 100 new nuclear power plants in the next 20 years. And that number has also been vetted with people in the nuclear industry who believe that it's achievable. We built the first 100 in 20 years. The technology has only been advanced, only been made safer. And the fact that, and unless I stand corrected, the last nuclear power plant that we tried to start to build was over in Indiana, the Marble Hill Nuclear Power Plant down in the Ohio River Valley, and that was when I was going to college back in 1978. And I think that most Americans are astounded to realize that we have walked away from this extraordinary source of clean energy, and we have to return to it. But there's a bicameral commitment by Republicans to that 100 plants in 20 years. Excuse me.
There was some skepticism voiced on the panel about the danger of carbon emissions. Could you talk a little bit about your opinions on man-made global warming? And then two, if your bill doesn't have a cap on carbon emissions, what incentive is there to reduce carbon emissions?
Clearly, if we take the royalties from new oil and gas production in the United States and put them into a trust fund to fund renewable energy sources, we're going to have more renewable energy. The more renewable energy that we have, the less carbon we're going to emit. And if you look at the sections in our bill that provide incentives for conservation, for individuals and for businesses, Americans, if you give them the right incentives, they'll use less. But I think there've got to be incentives to encourage Americans to use more renewables, and as a result, we're going to get cleaner air.
And can you answer the first part of that question as well?
What part was that?
Your opinion on man-made global warming?
There's no question that we've had climate change in our country and in our world over the last 100 years. There's probably no question that man has something to do with it. But there's also a great debate that continues to rage as to how much man has to do with it and how much man can control this. But I can say this, America alone cannot solve this problem. Punishing Americans in order to favor developing countries like India and China is not in our best interest. And if we're serious about dealing with carbon dioxide, there has to be a worldwide commitment to doing that, or we're just kidding ourselves. And I'm not going to punish my constituents and sell them on a program that isn't fair for others around the world who contribute as much or more to the problem than people in our country. Thank you all very much.